Hi everyone, it's Victoria here, and welcome to the podcast. Before we begin, I wanted to let you know about the free courses the Victoria Stilwell Academy has available to enroll in right now for dog geeks like you. Just go to vsdogtrainingacademy.com and click the enroll button, and you'll see the free course options. That's vsdogtrainingacademy.com. See you there. Hi everybody, welcome to this podcast. Oh, I got a gem for you today. Have you ever heard of Canine Myotherapy? Well, this is what we're going to be talking about today. And my guest is Julia Robertson. She has worked tirelessly to improve the lives of dogs since 2002. She's treated thousands of dogs, trained hundreds of people in Canine Myotherapy techniques. And I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, but Julia is one of the very first in the UK to understand and treat the effects of adaptive change, or otherwise known as muscular compensation in dogs. And through her years of work, she's developed Positive Pact by observing trends and patterns of behavior of dogs during treatments. And her observations and conclusions concur with many respected studies. She's an expert in interpreting postural and physical changes that occur in a dog when they're suffering with muscular pain. And as you know, on this podcast and also in the Dog Behavior Conference, we are very much invested in encouraging our listeners and attendees to really watch their dogs and to see if their dogs are in discomfort or if they are in any kind of pain. Because if you remember the last Dog Behavior Conference, if you listen to that and you listen to the exceptionally wonderful Daniel Mills, who I love and adore, talking about the amount of animals they see in their surgery with behavior issues and especially aggression. And 80% of those cases have some kind of undiagnosed pain or discomfort. And Julia, I know that you work closely with Daniel Mills and the University of Lincoln. So welcome to the podcast. I am so glad you're here. We're going to have a great conversation.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's lovely to meet you. And thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, a colleague of ours, Sindor, told me all about you, and I have heard of myotherapy. But for those people who are like, what is myotherapy? Can you explain?
Well, muscle therapy, myotherapy, if you break it down, is muscle therapy. So that's basically what we do. That's where we're specialized. We're then looking at the soft tissues and assessing and treating muscles or dysfunctional muscles. And it may seem, muscles are obviously a very large subject, but they affect so much of a dog's life. They affect so much of our life when they're not working well or when we are out of balance. And if our muscles are out of balance, the rest of us are out of balance. So we're looking at the dog's overall balance, symmetry, and observing their behaviors to actually assess what sort of levels of comfort or discomfort they are in.
And so who are your clients? Do people bring their dogs to you or a myotherapist if there's some sort of issue, or do you work on prevention, or do you do both?
Both. I mean, prevention's a dream. It really is, because not wishing to plug the book, but I wrote a book a couple of years ago on puppy development. And I think if we can just develop puppies better, then we've got a head start. So our typical client is generally someone that has a lame dog. We work in the UK on vet consent or vet referral, which I know is quite unique. So it could be lameness from an old injury, from an unknown cause, from a conformational problem. It could be anything. But what we do, we use massage techniques. It's very much with our hands, but we treat each dog as an individual. So if they come, say, for instance, with a cruciate injury or hip dysplasia or something like that as a previously diagnosed condition, there isn't a menu for that. We treat each dog as they present.
You say you work on vet referral. Is that the only way that you can see a myotherapist is via a vet referral?
Within the UK, we need to have a veterinary consent or referral, let's just call it consent, to say that the dog is fit and well enough and the treatment is appropriate for that condition.
A lot of the people that are listening here are actually from all over the world. Is there a similar thing, for example, in the US?
There is and there isn't. It depends on different states have different rules and laws. I believe there are some states where only vets can actually do any manual therapy. Different countries in Europe are very different too. Some have absolutely no veterinary consent and others are very, very stringent. So there's not one global sort of situation, if you like. It's very varied, and especially across the US. Yeah.
What I like is about this is that you have very important guiding principles. And one of them is this is a choice-led treatment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're treating a dog, it's vital that they have choice in the treatment. So there's never any forced restraint. And it'll always take place on the floor.
Yeah. Or on a surface.
On the low-level surface.
Dog can move. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So can you elaborate on that a bit? Why?
Sure. Why is it low or why is it choice or all of the whys?
Yes, all of that.
All of the whys. Again, Garland Myotherapy only treats dogs. So we've only worked with dogs for over 20 years. So we've observed dogs. And most of our things become quite organic. So very early on, I realized that obviously using correct body language, and I've always worked on a very ground level because I thought that was only fair, that the dogs can move away if they become uncomfortable, but also realized that if you offer them a safe environment, and of course that means a lot of things, doesn't it? And given the time to choose and time to think, they will choose to come back because you are a safe person and you're offering them that choice. And choice is potent, isn't it? Or a reduction of choice is scary and frustrating. So giving choice, you allow them to think about how that feels, how it has affected their body. I sometimes say it's that because we invite them onto the treatment area. So we basically have 3 zones. So we have a treatment zone, and then we have a benign zone and a neutral zone. So the treatment zone could be a piece of vet bed. It could be I work on a futon. It could be anything that is a designated area that when the dog enters that area, we then treat. If they get off that area and they go into the benign zone, we stay where we are, and that's their thinking area, thinking and sniffing area. If they go into the neutral area, that generally means they've had enough. So those two, the benign and the treatment area, the 2 really important areas for us. So we invite the dog to join us, and then we take a breath because, again, they don't want to suddenly have us pounce. We take a breath and then we start to treat. Now, because we have observed the dog's posture and gone through a comfort scale, so we've got an idea of their behaviors too, we have a bit of an idea of what is probably going on in that dog's body. So we're not going to go immediately to an area that is uncomfortable for them. So we are basically, it's a conversation. Is that okay? How does that feel? Are you happy with that? Now, the guardian's always in the room, vital. So the guardian has got a big, big job to play because they have to give that connection to their dog so the dog knows that they're in a safe place with their person, but they mustn't interfere with the dog's choice and dog's choices. Because it's very tempting for people to go, oh, no, come on the bed, come on, sit, wait, stay. We go, no. Let the dog do what they want to do. And of course, some people think that their dogs are not behaving properly or whatever it is, but we just give them time, both the person and the dog, time. And dogs make good decisions if they're given the time and the space. And we treat some very reactive dogs. Obviously, dogs that are in any form of discomfort are going to react all differently. But we treat all sorts of dogs with this mechanism, and it does blow people's minds, because sometimes it can be in the first treatment that we may only sit next to the dog and maybe just put one hand on. But it's all about building a relationship of trust. And then next time they come back, they go, oh, great to see you. Oh, yes, I remember. There was something it was good, but also I've got to think about things. And it's the most amazing relationships we can build so quickly through allowing a dog their own autonomy, time, space, because at the end of the day, it's their body. It's not ours. And they are, I think that to touch any animal is such an honor, but to treat an animal, to actually go to their vulnerability and actually they say to us, no, you're fine. You're good. I trust you. You can treat my neck that has been giving me so many problems for so long. You can do that. And you see their face change. And obviously we're watching them all the time. So if they go, we go, okay, do you want us to stop? Do you want us to keep going? Do you want us to move? So we don't get into that progression stage because we watch and the guardians watch them too. And we say, look, you just keep an eye. Let us know if you think your dog is struggling with this. But quite often the dog tells us first anyway, and they've got the space. So that's a sort of concept of it. I hope I've described it.
I think that's very important. Whenever I do a training session, there is always the dog always has the ability to stop the session, to say, I need to leave. Or I always give, especially if the dog is in the home and it's off lead, or if we're in an area where the dog is safe and can be safely off the lead, if there's always an escape route, always. That and not that they're going to need it, but I call it that. There's always a place that they can go to if they're like, I need a break, or I just need to have a little bit of time to myself.
I remember this. Yeah.
Yes, to process. And I remember teaching a dog called Nellie. She's very nervous Nellie, truly nervous Nellie. See it on It's Me or the Dog. But I was teaching her a very simple cue. And I had forgot to open, because I always open a door. I always open a door so that they can leave. Or if the baby gate is closed and it's safe to do so, I can open the baby gate. So there's always a place for the dog to leave, or an area of the room. And what I had forgotten to do was to open the back door so that she could go out into the garden. And we were doing some work, and she was responding and she was enjoying herself. And then all of a sudden she walked to the door and looked at me, and I was like, yes, you are right. I should have opened the door for you because you just need a little moment. And so I said, we're going to just stop. She wants me to open the door. She just needs to go out in the garden, have a bit of a moment. And then let's see if she comes back in. If she comes back in, we'll continue if she wants to. And if she doesn't, then we won't. So she took herself off into the garden. She did a little bit of sunbathing. It was a nice day. She came back in. She looked at me. She said, right, I'm ready. Let's continue. And I was like, cool. And this approach with this dog that come from a very, very terrible situation in Europe. She was rescued. I think it was somewhere like Cyprus or Spain, somewhere like that. And she'd been found on the side of the road with her two back legs broken. And she'd been adopted by a lovely family in the UK. She'd received great medical attention. She was mobile. But still, she'd been with the family for a year, and she still was a nervous Nellie. And it was me being able to observe her body language with them, and there was just a lot of touching, right? She just didn't want to have so much attention all the time because she was the cutest thing. And of course, it was very easy to give her attention, but she just wasn't. She was tolerating it. And when I was able to tell her lovely family, you do less, that was what she needed. And so that ability to give her choice over her learning experience was vital in really her healing journey. I go back 6 weeks later. It's the same dog. People say it's a different dog. No, it's the same dog. But because we had just made a few very simple, easy changes and given her some kind of agency over her life, she was able, she grew so much more confident. And I think that's so important in any kind of treatment, whether you're training or treating, that the dog has some agency. They're not always going to be able to. We don't always have the luxury of it, but we can darn well try.
Absolutely. And we have the most incredible situations where we have a dog that's in so much discomfort over a particular limb, for instance, or a particular area. And the first couple of treatments, they go, no, not there, not there. But of course, by treating the rest of the body, we're helping that more distal area. And then on maybe the third treatment, they come in and we start treating the head, neck, shoulders, whatever. And then they go away and they walk around. And I've seen this happen so many times. And you can see that they're thinking. They come on, they sit and they offer the really painful area.
Wow.
Honestly, the tears of joy and everything, it's a profound moment when you get that level of trust. And that's why we can treat some really painful conditions as well as some very reactive or nervous dogs. As you say, it's about agency. It's about giving them, it's their body, isn't it?
Right.
And so it's a lovely thing to do. And it's a little bit like a choreograph. It's is designed in the moment, not beforehand. And we all work around each other. And it's a lovely thing. It really is. And it's grown organically for us. So when I first started realizing that there was a pattern to this, that was when we started putting it together and realized that all the pieces actually did fit together with different studies, different things. And it became a whole discussion paper, which, as you say, Daniel Mills has been involved in looking at and is always very involved interested talking about it. But it works. It works. I think the only time that we sometimes have to just be patient, well, we're always patient, but it's when a dog has not had much agency in their life, if they're very heavily trained, very heavily told to be involved in their guardian. Sometimes they go, what? I've got a decision to make. I can make a decision without actually asking you. That can take a little bit of time, but that's a wonderful moment too, when they go, wow, I can actually decide for myself.
It is. It's a light bulb moment that goes off, because it's the same in training. When you have dogs that have been really trained, they have very little independence. They actually don't know how to problem solve. They've never been given the space to be able to just go off on their own and be. And they're very much reliant on their human caregiver. And so when it gets to that point of like, oh, what do you mean I actually can think for myself? It is. It's so empowering. You use this word empowering as well for people, for guardians. Can you expand on that a bit more? What do you mean by guardian empowerment or owner empowerment?
They see their dog in a different light. They actually see them behaving in a way that they potentially haven't seen before. And it's not because there's anything lacking in what they've done. It's just that we're putting the dog in another situation so they can actually see that by giving their dog choice, that the dog makes different choices choices that they didn't think that they would make because of historical events of maybe other treatments or other similar but dissimilar clinical situations, which of course going to a vet is a very different situation and you can't compare the two. For one thing, we have time. But in that situation, they expected their dog to behave in one way, but now they're behaving in another way. And that is huge for them. That really is huge. And it's really important for them to be part of this situation too. So before they come for a treatment, we do give them a lot of information about what to expect and manage their expectations too, because it is a very different way of treating. So because of that, they become more empowered to actually understand their dog. But a lot of what we do treating dogs, we do a distance support program, which we absolutely love. And we love working with people all over the world. And we provide a postural assessment, a movement assessment of their dog. And then we give them a supportive program so they can treat their dog. So they are then learning about their dog. They're learning how their dog feels, how their dog behaves in different situations when they're touched in different ways, and understanding why that happens. And they understand a lot more about their dog's whole life, from their environment to their exercise and to how their body feels. And that's, for us, we just love that. When people begin to understand more about their own dogs, that's just amazing, isn't it?
It is. And I think the more progressive trainers amongst us are really trying to highlight how vital it is that we have a better understanding of what our individual dog needs, and that we look at those needs and give them as much of their, or give them as much as they need, I should say. Let me I'm just going to put a clip there and I'll start that again. Hold on. I just put a clip there. I think that is vital, because as trainers, we're always looking, certainly the more progressive trainers amongst us are always looking at what the dog needs. And can we give them what they need? And that takes a lot of understanding. It takes a lot of understanding and behavior. And even if you have an agenda, as in today, I need to teach the dog X, Y, and Z. Well, actually, you might not be able to fulfill that agenda because your dog might not be at the place that you want your dog to be. And you have to understand that. It's the same thing when you have clients that suddenly go, oh my gosh, I never knew my dog could do that. Or I didn't know my dog thought that way. Or I thought my dog was doing this, but actually I'm just shocked to hear that that's not what my dog is doing, that actually it's something completely different. And it's this new realization that fosters empathy, so much empathy, that that's the keystone, that having empathy for your dog. If you have that, you're on a winning streak.
Exactly. And that's why understanding the true meaning of sentience, it's not just a word. It's got true meaning, and that's where the empathy can start, isn't it? Once you start to understand that we're the same. We're the same. We may look different, but we feel the same. And things like choice, things like agency are so important to all animals. And from puppies upwards, it's so important that they can experience that. And so to have that within the treatment is, as I said, really potent. But to understand also how certain behaviors are going to impact because of a dog's discomfort. And again, that's where our any treatment that we do actually face-to-face as a myotherapist or as a distance support myotherapist, where the dog is treated by their guardian and that behavior changes. Now that is huge empowerment.
Huge. And I
Absolutely
don't
enormous.
think people realize that impact. And we're going to take a quick break, but I'd like to come back and talk about the impact of pain and discomfort on behavior and how it is so undiagnosed and how we really need to be watching dogs more so that we don't just go straight into training or stopping the dog from being reactive or stopping aggressive behavior without truly understanding what's going on. So we will be back after this short break. A quick break here to get a word from this episode's sponsor, the Victoria Stewart Academy. Now, did you know that I have a school that teaches people to be dog trainers? I love It's Me or the Dog and my work as a dog trainer on television, but those of you who know me know that my true passion really lies with helping other people live their best lives with dogs. And I love seeing that truly magical transformation when that light bulb goes off with someone I'm helping with their dog. That's what it's all about. It's the secret sauce that pet professionals like me, who work with these amazing animals, that's what we all share. It's what makes being a dog trainer the most rewarding, enriching job I can imagine. It's why I love what I do. And it's also why I founded the Victoria Stewart Academy, so that I could provide a roadmap to others who want to help dogs and the people who love them learn to do what they love doing at the highest level. That is to become professional dog trainers. Earning a living working with dogs professionally, it's been a dream of mine for years. And that passion is what drives all of us at VSA to create courses that are specially designed to help adult human learners chase their dreams. Now, most people already know about our flagship dog trainer course, which provides both online only and in-person options. But did you know that we also offer both dog guardians and future professionals a fully refundable 10-hour online course taught by me and other awesome VSA faculty, and it's called the Fundamentals of Dog Training and Behavior course. Now, I know it's not the sexiest name, but it's one of the most dynamic learning experiences available to dog geeks, and it's a pretty awesome first step to see if learning with VSA is right for you. Now, as a Positively Podcast listener, you can use promo code PODCAST right now to get the Fundamentals course for 50% off. That is $150 value. So, take our course. Plus, we also have a couple of free starter courses. They're free, completely free, including a course called Building Your Dog's Confidence, which reveals the secret ingredient to a happy dog life. So, I encourage you to check out VSA today. As I said, we have courses for all levels of learners. So it doesn't matter whether you're a newbie with your first puppy or a grizzled vet already making a living as a pet professional. Visit positively.com/VSA to learn more and enroll in a free course. That is positively.com/VSA. We all want the best for our dogs, whether that means you taking home some key tips for your own dogs or adding the ultimate in professional dog trainer education. Visit positively.com/VSA today. VSA, it is the future of dog training. And now, back to the podcast. I'm back with Julia Robertson. We're talking fabulous stuff about myotherapy, but look, Julia, we talked a little bit before the break about how pain can truly exacerbate behavior, especially when we see dogs that are reactive, when we see that they are anxious, when we see that they are being aggressive, and how it makes me so sad that trainers in all camps don't put that necessary time into trying to understand the dog's experience before they, and I do it in quotes, do training. They don't take that time to understand. And it is vital that we do it. Yeah. Because that, how you feel will impact your behavior. Totally. I know that if I have pain anywhere or I feel discomfort anywhere, I become quite withdrawn. I can become a bit snappy. I'm not as curious or invested in my surroundings. I'm pain guarding. Yep. And also, if I don't feel so great, I might not have the energy or the ability to be able to learn anything. I just need to curl up and be quiet.
Yeah.
Why are we not seeing this in dogs?
Don't know. And they're very subtle, some of the signs too. And to be fair to dogs, they're not very explicit in our world about pain. People say to me, well, they're limping, but they're not in pain. They're limping, they're in pain. 1 and 1 equals 2. But it's not even as explicit as that. Dogs don't vocalize when they're in pain. In fact, they become more subdued often. But it's other things that are very, very clear. And that's why our observations that we've been doing for many years now, again, organically grown, are real insights into a dog's feel of comfort, discomfort, pain. And one of the big ones is the posture. And I've become such a posture geek now that I can even see where things are primary, secondary, and what the behavior could be as a result of that posture. But as you say, it's little things also, like, does your dog still pick up a toy? Why don't they pick up a toy? It's because it's too much effort. If I've got a headache, the last thing I feel, a bit like you're saying, I don't feel particularly jolly. I don't feel like playing. I just want to go into a slightly dark and quiet area and not interact. And it's exactly the same. Dogs, any dog with a mobility problem will have a neck problem. It's just, that is what every dog that I've ever treated and that any of the therapists have treated have had a corresponding neck problem. And it may be very obvious, it may not be very obvious. Now, if you've got a problem in the neck, you know exactly how much that's going to affect how you perceive your environment, your everyday being, everything. It can affect the digestion. It can affect space around you. I know if my back is ever very bad, I don't want people knocking into me. I want to keep everyone away. And I get lots of postural headaches, which I think really helps me understand how it feels for dogs. Because I think if you actually have discomfort yourself, especially any sort of myofascial dysfunction and discomfort, it does aid that empathy. I think, well, if I feel like this, how do they feel? Just like you were saying, that you just want to retreat. Some people retreat. Some people become very sort of verbal and backing people off verbally. So it's exactly the same. So it's observations of their behavior, from things like picking up a toy to how they're lying in their bed, how they sit, their posture. Other things like we look at their feet, their nails, their toes, things like this. Everything reflects, through their feet. So from the postural perspective, we look very much at their feet, their toes, their nails. And then going down to other things like how do they poo? How do they pee? If they have any discomfort, we look very much at their posture of defecating and urinating. We can see very much how they are accommodating that. And if you're uncomfortable having a poo, that's bad news for your whole health. And so that sort of thing is really important too, to be able to assess those. And all those things can be assessed fairly easily, really. It's just getting the word out there that that's what we need to do. Some dogs start to move and poo because they can't hold that static position. Other dogs, male dogs, when they're cocking their leg, they have to actually rotate their pelvis because they can't move their back. So they have to put one leg right under their body. And it's things like that that we look at in very big detail, because once the dogs reach that stage, their behavior will have been affected, even down to things like chewing their feet, licking their feet, chewing their body. All of those things could be a lot of things, but it can also be a myofascial dysfunction.
I have an old dog, and just the way it worked, I adopted another dog she was 11 years old, a Shih Tzu mix. And she has since passed away. She passed away at 16, so we had her for 5 wonderful years. But I noticed her body was beginning to change.
Yeah.
She was beginning to carry herself in different ways. And I began to see that where I think that she is in some kind of discomfort. So we were able to treat that. We were able to have therapy. We were able to, so that she had physiotherapy, so that she was at least comfortable. And obviously we were also able to treat the pain using various medicines as well. And now I have a 14-year-old Chihuahua who has invertebral disc disease. And so, I mean, I've been looking at her for a long time about, she's always been a leg lifter. And like, how does she lift that leg? How is she pooping? So once you're aware of things, like how much is she licking her left wrist? I know her left wrist is bothering her. All of these things. And then I have to make not just big changes in everything really, big changes in how I exercise her, big changes in she's not allowed to jump up on things anymore. And, Chihuahuas like to be on things. They like to be higher up.
Big.
That's just what it is.
It's going to be big. Yeah.
Yes. And so, but she can't do that. So now I've had to rearrange everything, the furniture. I have to put pillows on so she can't get up. And then I have to create lovely beds for her on the ground and say, sorry, kiddo, you can't jump up there anymore. But then there's times when we're together and I can put her up high behind me where she likes to. So I've really had to adjust my life to accommodate the challenges that she's having as she enters older age. And obviously we're not just talking about dogs that are getting older, are we? We're talking about dogs with injuries or any kind of sort of chronic stuff that happens to them or even acute stuff that happens to them. But the prevention component of all of this. Yeah. And, as dogs age, it's like humans. They are going to break down. That's just the way it is. Yeah. But the prevention part of it, you've written a book about puppies and about raising puppies into these confident adults. How can we prevent things from happening to our adult dogs just by what we do in puppyhood?
Okay. Can I just go back to the licking the wrist of your Chihuahua? Quite often that is a referred pain from the neck.
Oh, yes. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
I'm sorry. That. No doubt about it. You're absolutely right.
Okay. So prevention, in my experience, and I can only speak from my experience, most of the problems that I see in dogs and have seen comes from a level of instability in their body. And the instability is quite often that most of it comes from the pelvic region. So the instability within the joints, now it's got nothing to do with the joints. I'm not talking about the joints at the moment. I'm talking about the myofascial connections and the neurological connections, the muscle activity within these deep muscles that holds the body together and yet allows the flexibility. Unless you allow a puppy and encourage a puppy to do specific natural movement, which tends to be slow and varied in direction and over different terrains, that allows these activations and these connections to form. If we just go on one plane, this is very basic top line stuff. If we just go on one plane of movement, which quite often happens, with all the best will of the world, people take their dogs for a walk, their puppies for a walk, forwards. And they don't accommodate a dog or a puppy's leg length. So no puppy is going to have the same leg length as a human. So we walk, but we encourage our dogs or puppies to trot. So we train them to trot rather than walk. And walk is 4 time, and that is a great way of getting all the body to actually connect, because each leg has to move separately and support the load, which then creates a stress, an appropriate stress, which then makes these connections. And then the multi-different direction, generally it's best with the head down. The head up can switch muscles and connections off. So head down, multi-direction, wonderful. That then activates muscles inside their legs, on their medial and the lateral aspect, which then creates this balanced puppy or adolescent. So, of course, what's the best way of that? Scenting, allowing them to naturally scent, maybe add a small, not add an obstacle, but just don't remove an obstacle, like a little twig or depending on the size of the dog. So they have to then maneuver or just take that in their stride. So they are walking over, round, up, down, slowly, because anything that needs to be practiced, you have to practice it slowly before you can do it quickly. So everything has to be done slowly to begin with. And then they've got to be able to run too, but not lured, not chased, not encouraged, not tugged, just allowed to run in a safe area. So that is the fundamental. And it's basically allow a puppy to be a puppy. Whatever a dog would do naturally, that's what we need them to do. At Garland, everything
Garland,
we do,
sorry, because I call it
that's
Galen,
okay.
but Garland.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's because of the Greek
Yes.
background rather than the monkey from the apes.
There you go.
That's a vital difference. So we look at functional anatomy, and it's something we do within our rehab. So what should a dog be able to do? What is their purpose too? What should their bodies be able to do naturally? So their anatomy, what's it built to do? And that's the type of rehab that we give them to actually work on their functional movement. So it's all about the natural way of moving. So we start the puppy with their functional movement. Then if we have any dysfunction, we go back to that functional movement to actually get them to be reconditioned back to how they should move. But if everyone did that with their puppies, there would be far less problems. And I know that's a major claim, but if we could get a more stable, balanced dog through adolescence into maturity, where the joints all work together, the body works as a whole, they are going to have a much less injured, more healthy life. And I know that because I've been doing that with my dogs for years. And I feel that my dogs and also my colleagues' dogs and the myotherapist dogs are all looking pretty good for just being more stable in their body.
The book came out in 2022, didn't it?
It did.
And
yeah.
Where can people get it?
Well, you can buy it through us, through the Garland website, or you can buy it on Amazon too.
And what about if you're not in the UK?
I don't know. I think you can get it in most good bookshops or online. Yeah, online. Do you get Amazon in the States? Obviously.
Oh yeah, yes. It's huge, and sometimes it doesn't. They don't do UK stuff over here, but I just want people to have access to it.
Oh, that's kind. Thank you.
And if people, so let's say somebody they're a bit worried about their dog, and they are thinking, the vet has either recommended that there is some ongoing physiotherapy or some ongoing treatment. What would they do if they wanted to contact you? What would they do? What's the process?
The best thing is to come to our website, and on the website it's very clear. Well, we think it's clear. Postings. So help your dog. So you either find a myotherapist, or you can go to our distance support program via there too, or you can train to become a myotherapist, or you can obviously do our online courses too. I mean, we're there to try and empower. I don't like that word, but it's sort of a good word too. People to be able to help their own dogs, or just understand their own dogs to begin with. And then if they want to do a small online course, and that will help them also understand their dog, and also give them instruction as to do a couple of massage techniques. But if they really want to know what is going on with their dog and they want a full report, then the distance support is something that we're very proud of. We've made some wonderful changes in dogs. But as I was saying, it's not us doing it. That's a great thing. It's actually the guardians doing it.
So really, you're just saying it's virtual consultations. Like trainers will do virtual consultations, which we were doing before the pandemic, but the pandemic made virtual consultations actually so like a lifesaver for people who weren't able to go out and work with a trainer. You're doing a similar thing where you are empowering guardians to be able to work with their dogs and improving lives over computers.
Exactly. I love that. Yes, exactly. We're now going to actually introduce, we do some video consults, but mainly it's through reports and videos. But we are now introducing actual direct talking through, if you like, feedback directly of the report. So people understand it perhaps in greater detail and going through the treatment and observing that they are actually performing the treatment correctly. And it's not that we are controlling, we just know that the difference between how you position your hand and how you apply can be very different for the dog's perception and how that's going to, the effects of that. So we need to just tell people exactly how to apply these techniques.
Julia, I'm so glad that we were able to speak today. It has been absolutely fascinating. And thank you so much for doing what you do and improving the lives of dogs everywhere. Well, we try, don't we?
We try.
We've been around for a while, both of us. So
been around for a while, and it's lovely if one person can see something different in their dog, then that makes everything worthwhile. It really, really does.
Well, I really appreciate you joining me today, and
Thank you
also
very much.
You, everybody, for listening. I know that you are going to enjoy this podcast. And yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people who are like, what is that? I don't understand that word. But now you do. I hope that you will look. It's fascinating, and it's what so many of our dogs need. And the prevention aspect is also, whoa, how important for dogs. But thank you so much. And thanks everybody for listening. I will see you again on another podcast. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to Victoria Stilwell's Positively podcast. For Victoria's online dog training courses, more information, and helpful dog training tips, visit Victoria's official website at positively.com. Get connected on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media as Victoria Stilwell, and follow her on Twitter at Victoria S. Learn to become a professional dog trainer with the Victoria Stilwell Academy at vsdogtrainingacademy.com. And be sure to tune in next time as Victoria helps you and your dog live your best life together, positively.